Angela Alaimo O'Donnell, who has published 3 collections of poetry. The first called Moving House, the second Saint Sinatra, in case you hadn't realized that he was a saint.
Now.
You know. And I saw him in a movie. I saw him in a movie the other night. It was on TV. It was on the Manchurian Candidate. And he played it so differently than Denzel. You know, Denzel in the new one. He played it so cool, and I was like, you know, this man has such amazing sex appeal. Like he and Humphrey Bogart. I'm off the subject, but 2 men who are not good looking in a standard sense, but have women falling all over them, okay, including me. And, yeah.
Each to their own.
Yeah. Well, they've got it, you know. I don't know what it is, but they've certainly got it. And Waking My Mother, 2013, which I hope we have copies of brought here today. Angela's book, it's really very exciting. And also, of course, John's books. Pick up copies of those things. Of course, her work has been published in many journals, nominated for awards, including the Pushcart Prize and the Best of the Web, and an Arlen G. Meyer Prize in Imaginative Writing. Okay, Angela teaches English and creative writing at Fordham University and serves as Associate Director of the Fordham Curran Center for American Catholic Studies. And I know Angela personally because we both participate in the Mezzo Camine Women's Timeline Project, which is a very exciting project, brainstorm of Kim Bridgeford, who's also the editor of the Mezzo Camine Formulous Women's Journal, online journal, and of course now the director of the Westchester Poetry Center and the Westchester Poetry Conference. So if you haven't checked that out, there are really some very interesting essays, timeline of women poets. Kim Bridgeford's goal is to include all women poets ever. So it's kind of ambitious, but there have been some really good work done there, and Angela has done quite a lot of it herself. Okay, without further ado.
Well, thank you so much, Wendy, for that lovely introduction. Thanks, Wendy and Quincy, for inviting me here. I can't think of a better way to spend Super Bowl Sunday. Wearing animal print, reading poetry at Otto's Shrunken Tiki Bar. So thank you all for coming out today and sharing your own work. It's really been lovely listening to everybody. I've so enjoyed it. It's, of course, an honor to read with John. I think I'll start, as Wendy mentioned, I have 3 books, and I'll read a few from the first book, which is called Moving House. And this is a book about, I'm Italian-American. I'm glad you messed up the O'Donnell rather than only the blood of Italian or Sicilian peasants rather than Irish kings in my veins. It's one of my obsessions. Most of my poetry, like most of us, is about our particular obsessions, and family is necessarily one of those in an Italian-American family. So I'd like to read a few poems from this book. It's also about, home and the inability to call any place home or belong in any particular place, despite our efforts to try. Every family, according to Mary Carr, is dysfunctional. The definition of a dysfunctional family is any family with more than one person. So that includes us all, but of course we're all dysfunctional in different ways. So I'll read a couple of poems about our particular dysfunction. The first poem is called Lies, and if this poem had an epigraph, it would be from the great Italian-American poet John Ciardi, who says that a poem ought to be free to lie its way to the truth. Lies. Our favorite set, the operating room. Our favorite plot, death by folly. Poisoning by restaurant garnish. Livers brined in bourbon and burst. The killing argument, the suicidal drive, and Junior, the arsonist who set himself on fire. As if we defy natural causes, predictable as gravity and night, claiming instead the flaming corpse, the surgeon with his impotent scalpel, the atrius and usher of Coal Town. We lived and died by stories in that house. Every family makes its own myth-making, and we never really knew what was true and what was not true about what went on in the kitchen conversations. These poems are mostly true, with a few stretchers, as Huck Finn might say. Mostly true, but some of the mythologizing of my family has entered into my own blood and bones, I'm afraid. But one of the ways in which we were dysfunctional is that we had a very interesting and very pretty mother. We were 5 children, and my father died when I was 8, leaving my mother a pretty young widow. And my mother was different from all the other mothers. And this poem is about the ways in which she was different, and it's called Other Mothers. Other girls' mothers sold Avon, Beeline, Tupperware. My mother took lovers, young ones, dark ones, true ones, the kind that came back, parked their car in the drive, and slept in our house night after night after night. Other girls' mothers wore aprons, baked bread. My mother slipped on stockings, stepped into heels, and went to work late evenings. We'd lie awake in our beds, hope for peanuts, chips, mints, small signs she remembered us. Other girls' mothers didn't like my mother. Grew green-eyed in the grocery, cold-shouldered us at Mass, where she'd stay marooned at communion, her black mantilla shadowing her black eyes. Other girls' mothers liked their daughters, asked them questions, listened for replies. My mother would have thought them amusing had she thought of other mothers at all.